Hey guys, we are back for a brand new Marvel Legends review, taking a look at the latest Amazon exclusive 2-pack from Hasbro. This is something that I've been looking forward to for a while just because I don't have any of these. Some of you out there may have 1, 2, 10, 20 of them in your collection from various lines. And that is, of course, the latest Sentinel release from Hasbro. So we've gotten everything in this box before in one way or another. There's a parts reuse Wolverine, and this Sentinel is from the old Marvel Universe, Marvel Masterworks line. And it's been released in a couple different colorways, and we've gotten it now in Marvel Legends, and it has this new Wolverine figure. So we've got the Days of Future Past set. You can see it here in this absolutely massive box. It's humongous. This thing's like 20 some inches tall. It mimics a comic cover. Obviously, you can see on the front of the box we have got the Sentinel crashing through the wall, ready to throw down with Wolverine, and then the back of the box has product shots showing the two locked in battle. There is, of course, a window on this thing. You can open the front cover and you can see not only the figures within, and you also have a way to push the button on the Sentinel to make it talk and light up, but it does have a shot of some comic art from Uncanny X-Men 141 just to kind of tie everything all together. So I'm very much looking forward to tearing into this thing. So let's pull them out and take a look. Alright guys, here we go. We've got our Sentinel out of the packaging and Wolverine's down here, but we're going to focus mostly on the Sentinel for this review in general because this Wolverine is 100% parts reuse. You know, he's the Old Man Logan Wolverine with the Ultimate Riders Wolverine, the one that came with the motorcycle recently. So we're gonna do Wolverine first, get him out of the way, and then we're gonna tackle this Sentinel. And while I know that he is not new either, he is new to me, and he is the reason why I bought this thing. Alright, so here is our Wolverine figure, and like I said, this guy is, you know, just parts reuse. He is a cost-effective way for Hasbro to get a Wolverine into this package to make it Days of Future Past. So if you've got the Old Man Logan figure, you basically know what you've got here. He is that figure, except that he does have the sculpted on holster down here because this Wolverine has a gun. And it's the same gun we've seen quite a bit. It's that Luger style gun. So I'm not really going to focus too much on this figure. You know, we've seen this figure before if you know how that figure works. You know, he's got all the standard Marvel Legends articulation. I, in general, like this body quite a bit. I like the Old Man Logan figure. I'm quite fond of it. I don't need this figure, though. And that's not necessarily a knock on this set. It's just, for me personally, this isn't why I got the figure. I'd have been happier if it was just a, you know, cheaper version of the Sentinel without this figure, but I know what they're going for here, and I get the idea behind it because Days of Future Past is such a big thing. That on its own is probably going to draw some folks in. What I really don't like about this figure is the head. And like I said, this is the head that comes off that recent Logan figure that has the motorcycle. I didn't buy that because I just plain didn't like that figure, and I absolutely hate this head. I just don't like it. I think the eyes are about a mile apart. The expression is weird. I just don't care for it, and that's my personal preference. I mean, it's sculpted halfway decently. Paint's okay. It's not terrible, but I just don't like it. I think it looks kind of funny. And yeah, like I said, I'm not going to focus a great deal on this figure. He is, you know, kind of cannon fodder for me. I think I'm probably going to sell him, honestly. But for those out there who want this Wolverine, you know, you're getting a good body at the very least. And if you don't mind this head, then, you know, you're okay. He does have that gun, like I mentioned. It's just straight silver plastic. It's that Luger. You know, we've seen it with figures like Bullseye and stuff like that. And he does come with extra hands because that's very much a Wolverine figure thing. Although this time around, they're not the standard hands you get that already have, you know, an idea that they are Wolverine hands because they've got the, you know, eyelets on him for his claws. These are just brown hands because he's got gloves on, but they are trigger finger hands, and they don't have any indication that Wolverine could pop his claws out of here. So, yeah, if you're going to have him with the gun, which are you? You're probably not. You've got some options here either side. And then, of course, we've got the same claws we've been seeing lately with the slightly gray plastic, and they're plastic figure, you know, claws, so they are kind of gummy. They were a little warped out of the package. They're not perfect still, but you can easily fix that or swap them out for some metal claws like I usually do, although we're not doing that this time around. So there you go. That's the Wolverine in a nutshell. He is Old Man Logan with the Rider's head and with a few little embellishments, and obviously he's got a different paint scheme because he looks like he is off the cover of Days of Future Past. So that's about it. Let's switch over and take a look at our big robot now. And here is our Sentinel. This guy is about 16-ish inches tall, so he's definitely really tall. He's not necessarily 1/12 scale. You know, he comes from the 3 3/4 inch Marvel Universe line, so he is more in scale with those smaller figures, but he doesn't work too terribly bad. I think you can make this work. I think if you're enterprising enough, you can make this Sentinel fit your collection, and the scale isn't necessarily a deal breaker. I know it's going to be fine for me personally. He is, again, very tall, very beefy. He is very, very heavy too, at least compared to what I expected. The overall weight of this entire package was basically this entire figure, and I really expected him to be a little lighter weight and possibly even slightly hollow, but he definitely seems to be very, very sturdy and stocky, which is actually really nice, especially for something that is so big. Having some weight on him will keep him from falling down. So he is, of course, an older figure, so he relies on some older articulation, but in general, I think he moves around better than you might expect if you aren't familiar with the toy, save for one particular area that is definitely a pain point for me personally. And that would be in the head. So this guy can swivel around left and right, but that's about it. He really doesn't have any motion beyond that. What I would really love to have is him to be able to look down, to angle his head down towards the ground, because that's where his enemies are going to be, you know, unless you throw Wolverine on his shoulders or something like that. So that is a bit of a bummer. I can make it work, but it's definitely something that I would have loved to have seen. The arms on this guy have incredibly, incredibly tight joints. They do go out all the way, but they are so tight that I honestly have a hard time pushing and pulling on him right now. He does have a bicep swivel. He surprisingly has double jointed elbows. We have got a wrist twist, and then we have got at the actual wrist itself, at the base of the palm, we have got a ball joint, and he has a little bit of bobble action, but the gauntlets kind of stop things from moving around a little bit. He has a waist twist. He doesn't have any kind of ab cut or anything. I know this sort of looks like he does, but he doesn't. That's just sort of the way he is designed. So he really only twists at the waist. So in the same way that he can't look down, he also cannot bend down. From the waist down, though, he actually has a decent bit of motion. So we've got the old style ball jointed legs. That's one of the telltale signs that this is an older Hasbro product, is that he has these balls that you can go all the way out with. And then, of course, if you pull them forward, you can actually get a pretty good kick on them as well. If you rotate that ball all the way, of course, you'll be able to kick even further, but it looks kind of weird. You have a thigh cut. There is a double jointed knee here. Kicks back pretty good. And then we have got a boot cut down here. And then, of course, you have a ball jointed foot, so he's got a little bit of rocker, forwards and back. The cuff on the foot is going to stop things, and then rotation as well. So, you know, in all things considered, from the waist down, he actually moves pretty well. So overall, I think this guy has a pretty solid range of motion. It's not perfect. He is obviously on an older scheme of articulation, and my one gripe is that the head is not going to go down, which is definitely a negative. Don't get me wrong. I can't sugarcoat that in any way. I wish he had it, and he just plain doesn't. But he does move well enough, and in some ways better than I had expected. Now, as far as the looks of this thing goes, I'm very pleased. This guy reminds me very much of the 90s style Sentinel, specifically from the cartoon, and it's exactly what I wanted. There's not tons and tons of paint detail on this guy. Most of him is just cast plastic. So you're looking, you know, kind of where things are cut. You have just cast plastic for the hands and for the feet, and for the majority of the chest, most of the paint, if not almost all of it really, is in the face, and it's all very clean. You've got those flesh tones, sort of flesh tones. He's a robot after all, in the face with those red and gold eyes. And then, of course, we've got the chest plate here that has some paint detail on it. The back has some good sculpted detail on it. You've got some kind of weaving pattern going in here with these line work areas on the back of the arms and in the chest. And then these flappy shoulder cuffs all have kind of scuff marks on them to make it look like he's had at least a little bit of battle damage, although for the most part this guy looks like he is straight out of Master Mold's factory. Now, of course, like I mentioned, this guy does have lights and sounds. So you've seen probably, I'm sure you've noticed at this point, we've got a big yellow button in the center of his chest, and that is, of course, the button that turns everything on. He does come with batteries, so you don't have to buy them yourself, but they are quote-unquote demo batteries, so they're probably just going to die by the time I'm done doing this review. So all you do is just push the button, he's going to talk, and his eyes are going to light up. We'll do a couple more just for dramatic effect. So there you go, there's a sampling of some of the phrases that he does. I like this, you know, it seems kind of gimmicky. This kind of stuff often seems like kind of a kid's toy aspect of the figure, but frankly, I love lights and sounds in collector style figures, and this is really cool. It's a different added little bonus touch. You know, I may not ever really play with it like that, but it's fun to do. I'm certainly having a blast with it right now, making him say all sorts of stupid, goofy things, which is just fine. It doesn't really detract from anything by having this little yellow button there. I think it's in the sculpt pretty nicely, and I love the light up features on toys, especially big action figures, and he's a robot and he's supposed to do that kind of stuff, so that is just, in general, an added bonus for me as a collector. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this purchase. I do think depending on what you need out of this set, you may like it more or less though. If you really need a Sentinel, I think this is a good way to do it. You know, if you're someone like me who wasn't collecting Legends during the Toy Biz days, so you don't have the Toy Biz Sentinel and don't want to pay for it, or if you didn't buy this particular Sentinel when it was released years back in other configurations. So this was a nice way for me to finally get one. I don't think I'm going to be getting more than one because ultimately the price is a little off-putting. That third digit at $100 is a little off-putting for sure, and I wish they would have just included nothing, honestly. Give me just the fancy box and the Sentinel, maybe make it $75, $80 rather than giving me a Wolverine that ultimately I don't personally want. I just didn't need that. This was solely for the Sentinel for me. If you want both, then you are in the right place for sure, and I do think that the Sentinel is a fun toy. It is a little old, it is a little dated, but at the end of the day, I wanted it, and I've wanted to have one in my collection for a while, and it just looks so cool. So that's going to do it for this look at the Amazon exclusive Days of Future Past Sentinel and Wolverine 2-pack from Hasbro. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.